Welcome back to the Viper Miner channel. Today is a short video on the Antminer L3++. I teased it, unfortunately, about 2 weeks ago. The life just gotten away. My mom was in the hospital and just a bunch of things. So I do apologize for not having videos in about a week. But we should be back on track now. Everything's well. And the Antminer L3++, why did I get that? Well, because it's cheap and having solar and everything else on my house actually makes it a profitable device for ASIC mining. I did switch it to the Hiveos, and so let's go over and just kind of look at what I did here. And we'll look at profits as well. But you notice it's in my Hiveos, and I did have it off for pretty much a little over a 3-hour period here, and a couple other days in the past. I did nothing wrong with the unit. Unit's fantastic. The issue is I redesigned the airflow, the shelving, everything in my mining room. A video coming out for that as well. My entire system, all my rigs were off at one point for a little bit. And then I rushed to get them back on because price discovery was starting to increase. So things became actually profitable for us. We are running 503 to 502 mega hash on the Antminer L3++. Now I am using the most conservative power here, 660 watts to 504 mega hash. Now, I think it might be what my discrepancy at the wall is. My wall power is 720, 723 is I think it's the highest I've seen at the wall. I think the additional 50, 60 watts it fluctuates is the fans on the system. They're not the stock Antminer fans. They're actually nice because they are quiet. I probably could put this in my house somewhere to heat it up if I needed to, a room or something like that. But it is the fans are really nice. I'm also looking possibly 3D printing a shroud on the exhaust to kind of channel with some extra exhaust pipe that I have left over now that I redid my mining room to actually maybe move that heat more efficiently towards the exhaust vents in my room. But I don't know. It's not a priority at this point. ASIC Hub is how I got my Antminer onto the HiveOS. And basically, you can just Google ASIC Hub HiveOS, or just go to hiveon.com/ASIC Hub, and you'll be brought to this. Now they have a full video on how to go do this. Very, very detailed. Worked out really well. Essentially, and unfortunately, I can't run through this right now because I am recording off a Mac. I have one PC that I could do this, that I did do this on, but it's down right now because I'm doing some maintenance on it. But you basically hit install. You're going to be brought to this page, and you have a choice. You can do Windows or Linux. You can't do Apple. I even tried it, figuring, okay, Apple is close to Linux. It's a flavor essentially of Linux, but it will not load correctly on an Apple device. But if you have if you have a Bluetooth or something else, you can clearly run this, and then the Windows version. I'll have some screenshots what that looks like. The process is simple, and what I did is I downloaded that. It goes and finds your ASIC. You have to have your IP address. Okay. So what you need to do is have an IP scanner. They're free. You just download one, or go to your firewall and see what's new, or look through the list of IPs in your firewall or your router, and you'll get what your IP address, and then you just plug that into the line, and that says find ASIC, and it'll find it. Then I did run into one hiccup. I did the mode of upgrade. I had to, and it failed, and then there's a little link on either it failed, you click on it, and it failed because of a signature that this Antminer wanted it wasn't recognizing the signature of the Hiveos firmware. So I had to load the signature separately first, and then the firmware worked beautiful. I did not have to do the SSD card route. I did save the firmware to the Antminer original firmware. Now, when you come into the firmware, the original firmware, it looks very similar to HiveOn's firmware. So this is my ASIC miner, and you're just going to go. The tabs are all the same. All the information here is the same. Basically, they mirrored the Antminer firmware to be on HiveOS. So you're going to click on upgrade, and then what you want to do is first thing I did is I generated a archive, and basically it saves a version of that firmware that's currently running on your machine onto your hard drive. Okay? And then I recommend doing that after as well, once it's installed. This way you have both versions readily available in case you need to do a restore. And then I did keep settings. Some people said, "Oh, you got to turn that off." I actually forgot, and it worked just fine. Um, and then you're going to choose your file, which I do not have a file here to go choose. And then you're going to say flash in my image. Now it's important to make sure that you have no power glitches or anything like that that's going on through this, or else you could corrupt or brick the machine. And caveat, make sure that you know what you're doing. You can brick your machine to where it's useless at that point, or you're gonna have to go do the SSD route, hopefully to recover, but flash the BIOS and the firmware always on your own risk, okay? And then it does a reboot for you automatically. I did another reboot just to make sure. It's nice to have a link readily available to get into your Antminer actual firmware. There's more data here than there is on HiveOS. HiveOS is nice because it lets you monitor what's going on. I can do an overview of the system. I can see what's going on. So, which is really interesting as well. This is an Antminer L3++, but HiveOn does not recognize the plus plus at all. But I am getting the hash rate for the plus plus. Heavy Raider is my name. I mean, everything basically runs off Linux. And then it gives me down here the memory. Excuse me, guys. I had a frog in my throat. How much memory I have, how much is free, and then how much cache I'm using. So there's no need for cache because I have plenty of memory. And then it's given me my IP address, in which basically I log into the firmware. This is separate from HiveOS monitoring. But I do have, if you need to do any kind of debugging here, you can go to the monitor, and you can, it's keeping track of everything for you. It's a rolling log, so it eventually, I mean, if you got a problem, you're gonna have to go, in here quick to look at it. And then you can see the kernel log, what's going on, how many, what if I had a problem. So I did have a problem with some of the hash chips coming offline, and I really couldn't figure it out other than the error code it was giving me. Basically, everything I can find information was to reflash, and I reflashed and everything worked just fine. And again, I saved that version of the firmware just to make sure there wasn't a corrupt version that was in there. And then you can have your watchdog so you can see what happened here. So like chain one always exceeds threshold, but it really has no effect on anything else. This has been since day one. I'm not overly worried about it. Everything else seems to be working just fine. And then if I go underneath miner stats here, this is really kind of nice because it shows me all the stats and what's going on. So there's the boards that are active. There's 4 boards here, my frequencies, the voltage, the wattage, and it does an auto refresh. And this is, you know, hardware errors. So I have 11. My understanding that's a normal part of the ASIC, and there's real no issue. What I'm looking for here is no X's in, of course, no refresh. I don't know if you can change the timing of that, but 0 is good, X is bad. And this gives me my fan speeds. Okay, so let's go to pulling, where I got my Antminer on. Now you can see over here, this is that down period, and then I had back all week. I had different down periods because I was working on the mining room. LTC / Doge miners. I got the mini Doge, which is this one, 229, and then my Antminer. Now it's 503. I have noticed at the pool side, it's either anywhere between 473 and 506, and I've even seen this up to 600. I guess it's how the communication's going, how fast it's actually finding a share. But I'm very happy. If I go to earnings here, remember this was off yesterday for a little over 3.5 hours. And then even before that, the day before that, going into that midnight where you don't see it in the chart, it was off for like another 4 hours. But what I really kind of like is, let's see, if I come out, go further into the pay log. Here we go. I got paid here on 10/20 before I had the Antminer. This is strictly the mini Doge. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, let's do it. Start here, I guess. So paid 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 days. Really, it's 9. It's 9 because they pay at 7 o'clock in the evening. So figure half a day here, half a day here. So basically 9 days or 8 days if you just want to count between payouts on the mini Doge. I'm being paid out every 2 days, which is really nice, right? More than doubled what my payouts are. All right, so that's basically it. I just want to go over the Antminer L3++. Like I said, I did put it on Hiveos. I don't know if I'm being charged for this, but it's okay. It's nice to monitor. I have to log into individual Windows boxes for my rigs as well, so I'm used to logging in different places. But it is really kind of nice. What I do like about this is if I go into overclocking, like I said, I have the most conservative. They got default settings. I don't know what those are, but I can go 740 by 560, 890 watts for 610, all the way up to 1300 watts at 720. When you start doing the math from an efficient standpoint, this is pretty much it. Which is really nice because this allows me to still be on solar. If I brought this all the way up to 1300, I won't be on solar as much, and then my profit, it cuts into my profit. You can also do a manual if you, and again, make sure you know what you're doing because you can brick, start a fire. I mean, there's a lot of damage you can do if you have this incorrect. But you can go from lowest to the highest, and I mean, there's you can fine tune this pretty nice. What I do like about HiveOS is firmware. It does show you what the Bitmain defaults are for everything. You get a little more hash rate, but I'm also going to burn a lot more electricity to do that. And right now, I'm in a real nice sweet spot with solar and my rigs, and I'm still paying a little bit out of pocket, but nothing compared if I didn't have solar. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this quick little update. I have a couple more videos coming out real soon, so please hit the subscribe and like button and notification button to get those. And I will catch you on the next video. Be safe, be profitable. God bless you guys.